Well, welcome back. Today's episode is incredibly close to my heart because I am sitting down with someone who is not just a guest, but an incredibly dear friend who, right now, even thinking about him and his wonderful energy brings such love to my heart and tears to my eyes because of the pure joy that we have shared together. So, as I always say, we're going to go deep. And today we are really going to do a deep dive. And you're going to understand what I'm talking about once I get through this beautiful introduction. So, Peter Williams and I bonded deeply while working many years ago on a project called the Zone of Excellence. And while that specific project remained behind the scenes, the connection we built was profound. And, Peter has, wow, what a legacy. He has spent over 30 years as a camera journalist and cinematographer working for the BBC and spending a decade full time with CNN International in London. Peter has traveled to over 50 countries. Wow. And pointing his lens at the absolute extremes of humanity. He has stood in the middle of explosive conflict zones and riots, but he has also captured strange, unexplainable pockets of calm stillness amidst the chaos. But the most compelling part of Peter's story isn't what he survived in war zones. It's what happened when he finally reached a safe haven. So today, we are talking about surviving trauma, the dead end of forced spirituality, and how stepping into the freezing midwinter waters of the Salish Sea brought him face to face with his deepest inner conflicts. Peter, welcome, my dearest friend.
Colli, that introduction just gave me chills. Thank you so much. I feel honored and blessed to be able to just be talking to you for a while and just communing together. It's fantastic.
It is such a pleasure and honor. It really is. You know, to get this party started, I'm going to,
All right.
just go with whatever spirit guides me to bring out as, some questions that your audience as well as my audience, because they are now your audience, will gain some insights about transformation. And I'm going to ask you, for decades, your literal job was to put a camera between yourself and the worst conflicts on earth. So when you are looking through a viewfinder at a riot or a war, how does your body process the trauma in the moment?
Wow. That's a beautiful question, Colli. You make it sound like I was just one of those bang bang club war correspondents. Not at all. I was pulled into conflicts, and I did have to do the South African military for 2 years.
Wow.
So while I worked for CNN, some of my stories were beautiful magazine stories. Some of them were, very human-based stories. But like with the news in those days, CNN International was led by Ted Turner, so it was very much journalism based
Okay.
rather than kind of the propaganda that you see on mainstream channels now.
Exactly.
We were trained. I had to do a journalist degree to go and capture all sides of the story. So if we were sent out to, say Genoa during the times that it erupted into riots and everything, I would still have to try and be capturing a story from multiple sides. It was
Mhm.
something that was drummed into us that if you came back to the newsroom, you would need at least 3 angles to your story.
Okay.
Um, so maybe more if you could, to try and capture a more balanced view, if that's even a thing, because
Mm.
everything gets, tainted by people's conditioning and by their perspective. And
Right.
that I found, during my journalism career, came out more and more that, you know, we we always take a view, we always take a side depending on the way that we've been brought up and
Mhm.
conditioned.
Mhm.
And to to avoid conflict or to try and understand conflict, you definitely would need to understand at least a little bit of the side that you are opposed to, and that I've tried for many years to gather. And then when I eventually came to Vancouver, I got married and ended up being moved literally by the spirit. It just grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and pulled me out of CNN. That was quite a mystical story anyway, the way that I was kind of ejected from CNN. But that's another story. But I ended up, here in beautiful Vancouver, waking up at 3 in the morning, sweating and, very just being overcome with waves of bad dreams. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor eventually said, "Look, you've got full-blown PTSD. Your system is really trying to purge something that you obviously witnessed." And the buck stopped there, and that's
Mhm.
where I had to try and process it.
Right.
And rather than go down the medication route, for some reason at that stage, my body just said, "No, no, don't go that way." I dived into spirituality, and I met up with an incredible lady, Nicole Whitney, who ran a radio show in the early days called News for the Soul. And we ended up traveling all over America and all over Canada, interviewing visionaries and thinkers like, Eckhart Tolle and all of these, top people in the field that in those days were kind of up and coming. And it, it, it just took me down a rabbit hole of inner journeying to try and understand life at a deeper level from what I had witnessed.
Mhm.
And this actually just opened up a whole lot of you know healing that happened. But eventually, like as you said, it just led me to a dead end.
Mhm. And what I was gonna ask you, Peter, on that note, when you had the camera and you were in various situations, and some of them not so pleasant, I just wanted to know, did you ever perceive the camera to act as a shield for you?
Absolutely. It's funny that I would immerse myself in my job. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
it would be like, this is my job. My job is to capture whatever
Right.
is going on. And sometimes, it would be extremely violent. And I definitely found that by looking through the viewfinder, there was a distance between, the human side of me, which is like, oh boy, you're in danger now. There's rocks flying around, there's petrol bombs, there's tear gas, or there's
Mhm,
bullets flying, or whatever the situation was. Something in me just went quiet, and I was able to move. We spoke about this when, during the days that we were talking. We did some of the stuff with the zone of excellence. Is a flow,
mhm.
a kind of flow came over me. Not all the time, obviously. Sometimes I'd get incredibly scared, but, and just like, what am I doing here? I'm going to get killed. But there were other times that just I was in this pocket of peace in the middle of absolute this maelstrom, and just it it led me around. It just said, go there," as if I was being guided. And a lot of the times, in one of the big riots, another cameraman from APN, he was stuck in the middle of it was a big race riot in London, in a place called Bradfield outside of London. It was it was a very kind of brutal riot where, hundreds of policemen had been hospitalized during the day, and we ended up in the middle of the night to cover the story at 2 a.m. And they'd cordoned off this whole district, this whole area. And myself and a kind of upcoming reporter who was trying to make a name for herself ended up getting thrust into the middle of this
Oh.
rioting zone.
Mhm, mhm.
And the police weren't even there because they'd cordoned it all off, and we went right into the middle. And it was it was crazy. They were ram raiding a dealership, a car dealership. They'd stolen cars. They'd set fire to nearly 9 pubs
Oh my
around
goodness.
the area. So yeah, there was a lot of casualties.
Mm.
And there again, another mystical experience occurred where something just said to me at a certain point, "Get out, get out,
Mhm.
get out." And I
Right.
said to the reporter, "Okay, okay, it's time to leave." I'd got shots of cars smashing into dealerships, fires being set, and a lot of violence and whatever. But something in me just said, "Okay, it's time to pull myself, the reporter, and the soundman out of there." And
Mm.
she was wanting to get more of the story, and I just insisted. I just said, "That's it. We're leaving now." And
Right.
we ended up getting out. And later, the editor said, "Wow, you guys were lucky." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, look at this footage." And we were down this little alley, and we were filming this. It was a BMW dealership which they'd kind of looted. The rioting mob had kind of looted, and they had stolen cars and whatever. And at the end, we were in the darkness at the end, down this alley filming this chaotic mob at the end. And I was focusing on the fire, and a car had just crashed into the big plate glass window of this dealership,
Oh
and I
my
was getting
gosh.
footage of that. But there was a mob of people all armed with sticks and, you know, weapons, and,
Mhm.
in the corner of the frame, this little guy went up to look like one of the leaders, and just pointed straight down the alley at where we were. And at that point, I just lowered the camera, and that was the time I said to her, "Come on, let's get out of here." And he said, "Wow, your instinct was correct," because another Sky cameraman had come in from the other side, and they caught him. And they put him in hospital for nearly 9 months. They broke all of his ribs. They threw his camera into a burning car,
Oh my
and,
god.
yeah, beat the hell out of him. So we were very, very lucky.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm honored to sometimes when you get into this flow,
Mhm.
it just tells you what to do.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and and so, during the time that I've tried to meet and recover from trauma, which obviously surfaced, years later when I came to Canada.
Mhm.
I I definitely, you definitely have to come face to face with everything that you've repressed.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and, in that, where you had mentioned the, you know, pockets of calmness and stillness amidst this, right? As a facilitator of systemic trauma, I know that energy always seeks balance. So, what did that stillness look like to you in those extreme moments?
Wow, that's a really good question. It's funny, Collie, it feels like life, it has so many extremes. There's such a spectrum that
Mhm.
that ranges from a central point, which seems to be completely still, to extreme views on either side. Especially looking at what's happening in the states now. It's just my side versus your side.
Right.
In my religious upbringing, it was the good guys versus the bad guys, and I'm on the right team, and that that conflict, which is always a separation. It's always a duality. If if somehow life pulls you into the central point where it's not neutral. People say, "Oh, neutrality is a bad thing." To me, it doesn't seem like neutrality. It seems like, in a weird way, your own truth, like your innate truth, which
Mhm.
doesn't re- it doesn't it if it doesn't take sides, or if it does take sides, it's not it's not from it's from more a functional point of view rather than a "I'm right, you wrong" kind of thing. There is an overview that sometimes you get thrust into, and many of my friends and colleagues that have ended up in really dangerous war zone situations have encountered this. A lot of
Okay.
people and friends in the military have encountered these pockets of complete peace and silence right in the middle of, something chaotic.
Mhm.
And I've this is where it kind of eventually will circle around to the cold water swimming. Is when you finally meet yourself, or you meet that trauma that eventually it eventually will come up. Whatever
Mhm.
you push down,
Yes.
whatever you repress, suppress, it's gonna surface eventually in many ways. If you can meet it, something mystical and magical can happen, and
Mhm.
it's one of the most counterintuitive things that you could ever do, because you don't want to meet something uncomfortable.
No, exactly. Exactly. Well, there's such profound systemic truth, that the nervous system holds itself together, especially in a time of crisis like war, and then it only collapses when the war is over. But, you moved to Vancouver, which is, pretty profound in itself, a beautiful, considerably safe haven. And, that's when, like you say, your full blown, PTSD caught up with you. And so, what did that collapse feel like when there was suddenly no external enemy to film?
That's a beautiful thing. The funny thing is the what I discovered is the mind is an incredible story maker. I
Mhm.
mean, most of my career has all been about capturing stories
Right.
and points of view, and thoughts can create the most incredible stories, both, even when you look back on your past and how it's created in your mind and your brain, and the projection of the future, possibilities. It's funny. It's like I encountered something. A teacher. Well, I was lucky. I ended up going all the way into the Himalayas with like a guru. I was following him and teaching. I was filming him
Oh,
on
wow.
a thing called a chardam, which is called the I think 4 fingers or 5 fingers, which goes right up into the temples, up into the top of the Himalayas. And one of these teachers told me, you know, it's there is a place within you that
Mhm.
is it doesn't take sides. It doesn't it doesn't take it doesn't listen to those thoughts. It doesn't listen to those stories. It's quiet. It's completely silent. And you know, to a journalist, silence is not something that you really want to spend much time. It's all about talking. It's
Mhm.
it's all about stories. And silence is dead air on, as you know, on a podcast. When you have long gaps of silence, there's either something wrong with the microphones or something's going down. But
Right.
in the nervous system, to find big gaps of silence is very unnerving to the storyteller. The storyteller is like, okay, come on, what's wrong here? It's we got to do so. We got to do something with this. It's got to be fixed.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I'm starting to discover more and more that that's not something to be fixed, but something to be, I don't know, relaxed into more and more.
Hmm. Interesting, because I'm thinking, when you started to experience the PTSD, and then you delved into like you say, spirituality and the inner exploration to try and fix, but hit that dead end. So, and so many people, I mean, in the healing space, force love and light over unhealed trauma, right? It's like icing on the
Mhm.
cake, right? But so for you, why did traditional spiritual exploration fail to provide, a solution for you?
Well, the funny thing is, Colli, like storytelling, like I grew up in a very religious
Mhm.
upbringing in
Mhm.
in in South Africa, and really in those days it was right in the middle of kind of apartheid South Africa. I actually got to meet Mandela, which is one of the high points of my life. This is
Oh,
years
wow.
later when he was released from prison. I got to interview and meet Mandela, but that's a side story. But
Yeah, we'll be doing another
um,
podcast.
yeah, he, there's. It's funny. I really am in the moment right now. I can feel. You talk about storyteller. My storytelling mind is getting quieter and quieter as we speak, and it's actually sometimes hard to formulate memories
Mhm.
and stuff. Anyway, it's kind of
Mm.
it's kind of
Mhm.
weird. But Yeah. Anyway, what was your question again?
Yeah, no, I probably distracted you, I'm sorry. I just asked you about,
Oh,
the traditional spiritual exploration, right?
ah,
That it didn't
ah.
provide a solution, right?
Yes, and sorry, yeah, there we go. So I was brought up in a very religious Christian upbringing,
Mhm.
and a religion, and I don't want to knock religions at all because all
Right.
religions provide an incredible framework for people to, form society and form meaningful relationships with themselves and others. And I definitely don't want to, knock any form of spirituality or
Right.
Christianity. But
Mhm.
what I did see is that when my camera took me all over the world, I was taken to Thai Buddhist temples. I was taken to Egypt, where I ended up in the middle of the pyramids, and
Oh, wow.
I was in Teotihuacan in Mexico, and just up some of these ancient Toltec temples and stuff, and you start to see a common thread that runs through all of them when all of the stories are condensed into its simplicity, its simple form.
Mhm.
And I found that when I kind of exited my formal religion, which kind of fell away because I thought, well, hang on, here's all these other people, Islamic people. I was in a temple where there's like 2,000 Muslims praying, and I'm feeling love in my chest, and I'm feeling,
Right.
wow, this is the same thing I experienced in the peak of my Christianity, where I had all those mystical experiences when I was younger, and here it is again. And like when I
Mhm.
was there was the big story where there was the controversy of the priests molesting children in the Roman Catholic
Mm.
Church, and we
Mhm.
had to go and cover that. And I was in the Holy of Holies in the Vatican City, and at one stage I was probably about 200 feet from the Pope, and in some of those hallways, I was feeling, like years of repression and heaviness, and I was
Oh,
thinking,
wow.
"Oh my goodness, this was kind of the birthplace of my religion."
Mm.
And the love that, Jesus used to speak about doesn't
Right.
seem to be here. And
Mhm.
I'm not knocking it, because love is, love you can find everywhere. It's not
Right.
it's not it cannot be owned by any specific religion. But I found that during the time that I did all the spiritual journey, the stories change, but the actual framework was similar. I was noticing there is still this hierarchy where
Right.
you've got at the top, and all of the angels, and all it goes down through the ranks, and then there's the little sinner at the bottom. And that's why it fits so perfectly into military, because you've got the
Mm.
same structure with the head at the top, and all of the colonels, and the drifting down through to the lowly troop. I was just seeing that it it just recreated itself in spirituality in a similar form, but just in
Mhm.
a more loving wrapper.
Okay.
The wrapper was, you will find enlightenment versus you will find heaven, or you
Oh,
will.
okay.
Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? And
yes.
and
Yes, absolutely.
so I was going back to stories. I was seeing these structures which made people, or gave people, or myself at various points, like comfort, feeling like I know the truth. I know what's going on now. I've got a guru, I've got a teacher that's telling me this is the way to go, this is the truth, or I have a belief that's, if I do this and do that, then this is going to happen, and I'll be safe. I was finding that the one thing the body doesn't want is to be thrust into the not knowing, to the
Mm.
unknown. The unknown
Mhm.
is something which is terrifying to the mind, because you always need to know. You always got to know, okay, well, what do I do next? Or, is this the right way I'm going? Or, if it's a competitive thing, how can I defeat that other that that the evil or the devil or whatever's on the other side of me, which is on the side of good, blah, blah, blah. And the still point is actually in the point of unknowing,
Mhm.
where you just don't know anymore. And it is one of the most uncomfortable places to be. And that's what I really had to, in a way, that's, going back to cold water diving, I encountered, because when you go into the cold, nobody really wants to be really, really cold.
Right.
It's something you resist, and you go like, ugh, it's freezing cold water. I don't really want to, I don't want to dive into this. But when you do, you, s- I just suddenly realized, wow, I can withstand, you know, 15, 20 minutes a day, sometimes up to 30 minutes of freezing cold water, like 5, 6 degree water,
Mm.
without a wetsuit. I didn't have a wetsuit, so you really feel it all over your body, the
Oh,
cold.
yes.
I was just finding out later, I was totally at peace. It was pushing me into this place of peace again, and stillness. And I was realizing, well, it's just because I was able to encounter and be with something that I don't want to be with. Um,
Oh.
and I
Mhm.
started juxtaposing that with trauma and anxiety and all of the negative sensations that come up.
Right?
If you traumatize, they definitely will come up. And there's so many different ways of avoiding them, as you know. We can
Mhm.
we can distract, we can medicate, we can do all sorts of things, which I don't think are not essential. I think sometimes you do need all of these things to help you, but really, at the end of the day, you've got to come to the point where you accept and you face
Right.
yourself,
Yes. It's so
and
true.
whatever's coming up.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Peter. I mean, I want to go back to this the breakthrough you had on, because it didn't happen on a meditation, cushion. It happened in the freezing
No,
midwinter, wearing nothing but
yes.
trunks and a mask and fins. And, it's like, what happened to your human nervous system when you willingly subjected it to that extreme cold for 30 minutes? I mean, what happened?
Well, I think that's another story that I think everybody loves to embrace, is this idea of you reach this certain aha moment,
Mhm.
and you get there, you win, and then
Mhm.
you've got it forever. I was finding, like, repeatedly, I would be going, just about every day. If I wasn't working, if I wasn't shooting TV series, or, because I did a lot of TV work here and a lot of
Right?
TV series, a lot of the times over winter, the film industry would go quiet here in Vancouver. And
Okay.
this I would go just about every day to the water, and not many people are around, especially when it's freezing cold and the
No.
air is like 2
Nope.
degrees and the water's like 6 degrees. I was by myself, there's nobody there, and I'm not advocating this to anybody else. So believe me, I don't think this is a very safe way of doing it. So it
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
probably pretty dumb on some level. But for me, it was my time where
Right.
I didn't realize it at the time, but it was my meditation. And
Right.
there'd be times that I'd be coming home, my body was really getting cold, and I would run a bath of hot water so that I could come back to warm up. And I only live a few blocks from the beach, so there would just be this walk up the hill to my apartment. And sometimes it was like things would slow down. My body would just slow down, and it would just get slower and slower and slower. And I think, "Oh my god, am I having a heart attack or something?" It just feels like everything's getting really weird.
Mm.
But I realized that it was pulling me into the present moment, and the present moment, like, it's bandied around as something, "Oh, I'm present, I'm feeling present, I'm here now," and all of that.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I don't think many people really are. They
No.
have a story about what it is to be present, but when when you actually get thrust into the present moment is an abyss. It's like falling into a very dark hole, which it's like you go through a portal where, like, abandon all ye who enter this place. You got to basically, you leave your personality behind, you leave everything behind, and you just enter this mystical place that just dissolves you in a very weird. And I was realizing I wasn't in those states for very long, but
Right?
because my mind would kick in again and go, "Oh, cold! Come on, let's go and jump into a bath or something." But I had a reference point again where it was just a place outside of trauma,
Mhm.
which there was no confliction. There were, I mean, is there a word? No, it's not a word.
Well, it
There
is
was no
now.
conflict.
I
It
like
is
it.
now.
You better trademark it.
Yeah. I know I'm jabbering it on, but,
And no, I love it. I love it. I love trademark it. You never know why, but maybe.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no conflict,
and
right?
and when I'd encounter this, I'd go, "Wow, why how do I get there again?" And, I have a feeling this is why people go for extreme sports and stuff like that, because when you're really in the point of, you know, when your life's in danger or anything like that, it's a very extreme place, and
Right?
you're so focused on what you're doing that suddenly all the story just stops. The story of, like, whatever you're doing and what you have to do, and we discussed this, years ago on the Zone of Excellence, Colli,
Mhm.
where, you know, some of the hockey players and that go into that mystical place.
Right?
They're not thinking. They're not thinking. Their mind, like, you're not thinking on a thought level. You almost being done. You're being done by something,
Mhm.
and it does it pretty perfectly. It seems to know exactly what it's doing, and it just sort of waits for you to just shut up and just. But to do that, it's really really hard.
Oh,
I've found,
yeah, it's exactly like
but
mhm. Go ahead.
yeah, but no, but I mean that's just the place that I've found is the most healing for me, is just meeting the thing that you're the most afraid of is always very, very uncomfortable to the body. It's very, it's a sensation that the mind is always wanting to label as uncomfortable or, traumatizing. Even the word trauma, we've
Mhm.
created this monster.
Yes,
I
and
have trauma and
oh,
a
yeah.
badge of honor. It's almost
Right,
like I am traumatized. That
right.
th- it, yes, in one level you are traumatized, but it a lot of times I've found that it keeps it alive by by the labels and the ongoing story that we have with how we're going to heal this and how it's going to, it takes it out of the horizontal dimension of time where it's like, I had this before
Mhm.
and it was bad, and therefore if I do X, Y, and Z in the future, it'll be good. So
Right.
imagine that on like a horizontal plane, which,
Mhm.
I was there and I go A, B, C, D, E, and I get to the next, then, and then I will be healed, or then I will be saved, or then I will be better.
Mhm.
It's always this ongoing search, isn't it? I
Right.
found that with my spiritual search as well. If I'm just good enough, if I meditate enough, if I do enough, then I will be whole. Then I will be. And I've just discovered more and more that that's an illusion. It's an illusion of story that just keeps us going and going and going. And the quest for healing is just ongoing, and you just keeps going and keeps going, and you never are able to really stop
No.
and really
No.
feel that very scary. It is scary because at that portal, everything that you think you are kind of ends. It's almost like a little mini death in a weird way.
Mhm. Absolutely.
W you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It just
absolutely.
it
Yeah, because the story has to
everything's
change,
gone.
right? The story
Yeah,
changes,
and
and if you've been holding on to the story and it's become your identity, then who am I?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, that's right.
Who am I?
So it's just been this slow, I mean, some people would say that's insane going down the route of like deconstruction, but it seems like that's been my path really. First of
Mhm.
all, understanding, like a journalist, understanding all the different sides
Right?
of, the conflict, what causes a conflict, what creates a conflict, what causes a trauma, what puts it in your body, and, the physiological responses of your body, which the body is such a beautiful thing. I mean,
Oh,
come on, the thing's like
absolutely.
incredibly it's like a faithful dog that whatever you do, it just looks at you and it goes, "I don't know what you're doing, but you're so clever, and I will just do whatever it is you want,"
Mhm.
and the body responds to what your mind is telling it. And, if you go later and you just go, "Oh, that was so terrible, this is terrible," it just frightens the poor animal, and it pushes that trauma deeper and deeper down into the system. Um,
Absolutely.
a and it's I don't know all the physiological you I'm sure do, but this has just been my own anecdotal experience. I might be way off the mark, but as
No,
far
you're
as, like, the
actually
way
right
the
on. No, you're right on because the thing is, trauma isn't what happens outside of us, it's what happens inside of us. So, that book, When the Body Says No and The Body Keeps Score, I mean, it's true. It's the somatic, right? How we store it somatically. And so until, we actually can include it and acknowledge it and see it and feel it and hear it, then, we're going to keep running from it. And then we run right back into it because it's repeat rewind, right? And
That's
then
right.
there's all these conflicts like you say, and you say, the cold brought you face to face with your inner conflicts and aligned with, the fear and the anger you witnessed behind the camera and like really, that freezing, you know, water mirror, of a conflict zone. I mean, it finally allowed you to process this, right?
Yes. That's so beautifully put. What did you call it? The mirror.
It's
Yeah.
like I liken it to a freezing water mirror, you know, of a conflict zone, right? And how
Yeah.
it finally allowed you to process the PTSD,
Ah,
right?
that's so beautiful. That's so true. I used to say to Kate, my wife, I said, like, this, the cold is my friend. It's my friend. It became my friend. And
Mhm,
in the
mhm.
beginning, it was like, "Oh, why am I doing this? Why am I
Yep,
going?" I did a friend, how I got into it, a friend of mine dragged me along to a polar bear swim on the 1st of January here in Vancouver. They're probably all over the world. They have these polar bear swims where
right?
people, get together at midday and go plunge into the water. And I went along to one the one year, and I'd been suffering from a lot of anxiety, a lot of kind of the dead ends that you go to with anxiety is such a terrible thing because
Mhm.
it haunts you, and especially when you're doing responsible jobs where you have to perform at a very kind of efficient and high level. You Anxiety is not something you want.
No.
You definitely don't want it during the day because it just makes your whole system feel off balanced and feel out of shape. But I found that when I dived into that cold water, it just stopped. It just went, because your body's just dealing with other stuff. It's like, this
Yeah.
is cold.
Yeah.
That the trauma just went, hang on a sec, I'm just gonna, I'm dealing with this cold right now. I'm not gonna tell you a story about how miserable I am because I'm freezing cold. Uh,
I'll get
yeah,
back
it,
to
it
you.
it's such a yeah,
Yeah.
you can make stories about it, but it's so
Yeah.
visceral. It's so sensory. It hits your whole body simultaneously. That for me, that was my gift. I did a little mini documentary on YouTube, which I've got called it's like The Secret. It's my little secret, which
Mm.
was the cold is, for me, it was a portal, and I think for other people, it may be art, it may be music, it might be something else. It's not like I'm saying, you got to go and immerse yourself in freezing water. That is the way. For me, it was my way back to healing and to to wholeness a strange way. I'm not saying I'm whole, but at least now I'm able to have this kind of a place that I can
Mhm.
touch and go, if ever my trauma comes up again, which it does, it always does, it seems to always come back, situations or triggers will trigger it. But then I'll just think of the cold and go, you know what? It's my little friend. It's come back to me again. And y- that's, to me, that was the first stage of acceptance, of starting to accept, the things that I'd seen that I thought was so unjust and
Right.
so wrong in my mind. That a lot of times you talk about the viewfinder being something between you and that. Yes, there were many times that I was so torn between putting the camera down and getting involved with what I was seeing to try and,
Mm.
to help or to, 'cause you're always torn as a person who's trying to gather a story which you're gonna share to other people. Should I carry on recording this, or should I get involved in the
Right.
story? And there were times that I did get involved in the story. I couldn't help myself, but yeah, you talk about the mirror, that is the mirror.
Mhm.
You do come up against yourself. Life will always put you in a situation eventually where you come up against yourself.
Oh,
And I don't mean yourself as in your personality or your conditioned, thing that we call Colli or Peter or whatever, but, the your deeper truth, whatever
right.
that may mean.
Right. And speaking of Collie and Peter, I was going to say, we met, working on the zone of excellence, and I'm just thinking, looking back at who we both were then, compared to the
Yeah.
deep somatic healing that you found in the water now. What to you does the zone of excellence actually mean for you today?
Wow, that's a beautiful question, and I loved, man, when did we do the Zone of Excellence? That was so many years ago.
Oh my goodness, we were
I
working
don't
on
know.
that in 206, 20 years ago, Peter.
Yeah, yeah, look
Yeah,
at that, 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, and you were talking about even then, you were talking about the flow state, that
Right.
state, that
Yeah.
elusive thing in sports people, and that where they all of their training and everything is there, but it's using them.
Mhm.
They're not consciously applying it. Martial artists and all of them
Yes.
great, you know, great great teachers and that in martial arts, they get to the point that which they call no mind, where there's
Right.
no mind, but they're being moved by an intelligence that is so great that it encompasses them. They are encompassed by it, and that is where the line dissolves.
Mhm.
That's those little mystical times where I would be out in the ocean and, a seal would come up or something like that, and then suddenly the line between me and the seal would disappear. And
Mm, beautiful.
it's very difficult to put into words, but suddenly the ocean would embrace me, and it wouldn't be, a little cold snorkeler in the middle of the ocean diving down into the water. It would just be one thing. There would just be one thing, and it just throws you into awe that we you know we're part of something so incredibly mystical and so
Mm.
incredibly beautifully profound, but we miss it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
by the stories we tell, and the thoughts that we create, they torture us.
Mhm.
I would be tortured by my own stories, of like even the stories of healing, like, oh, I've got to do like whatever therapy I'd be doing at that time, I got to do it right, because if I
Mhm.
don't do it right, then I won't be healed. It's another story, and it keeps you searching,
Absolutely.
it keeps you separate, and that little elusive place doesn't find you
No.
because you're busy doing other things.
Yeah, well, you're so right, and the thing is, you know, with the zone, it was all about getting people into alignment, and that was 20 years ago, and now alignment is, the catch-all phrase, and same with trauma, but it was about that because of the people I had worked with, and it was all about, things being aligned of, in your environment with skills and capabilities and your values and your beliefs. You are. So I am a hockey player. I am a golfer. I am a skater. I am, a teacher, whatever. But the whole thing about the zone was taking it one step further. And that's the transcendence to who else is involved here and what else is involved here, because then the I am ism, the ism of I am, can just relax and get out of the way, because everything that lines up underneath the I am then reaches through the transmission link. And that's how the zone happens, right?
Oh, yeah, that's so beautifully put. Yeah, it is a mystical place because
It is.
it
Absolutely.
and the crazy thing is, Collie, I'm beginning to realize more and more it's not this attainment, it's not this big thing to get. It's what we
Mm.
are.
Yep.
It's what we really, really are. You know, when you're able, or life enables you to take away that overlay,
Hmm.
which we are so caught up in, the life story, that this 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 incredible thing is is there. And every time I'm blessed to be able to encounter that, I'm realizing it's always there. It's always been there. It's never not been there, which, it's not something I can keep. It's not something that I can go, "Oh, look, I've attained. I've got this, enlightened, or I'm this and I'm that." Because the very thing that keeps it is the problem. The very thing, the little personality goes, "Look, I've attained it,"
Hmm.
is the problem. It's the one that goes, "Look, I've got this." My ego is now like fulfilled. I'm happy. Look, I'm this. It seems crazy from the point of view of when when these states are entered into, how all-encompassing it is and how trivial the story feels like at that time, because suddenly it all dissolves. I know this is getting very deep.
Oh no, it's good.
I'm
It's good
sorry.
because
We
no,
seem
don't be,
to have
because
all
remember how
got.
how I opened up the intro is I always tell people, the audience, your audience, my audience now, it this is what it's about. I go deep. I'm sorry, I don't really like superficial talk. You know,
You
eh,
do, don't you? You seem to pull people really into the deep stuff. I'm like,
I-
wow, we're really talking about deep stuff now.
well, it's interesting because when you're talking about the zone and the attainability and all that, it would be amazing if we could bottle it, right? And then, you
Yeah.
know, just take a sip of it
Sell it,
whenever and,
sell it.
and sell it.
We can sell it. We can make 1,000,000. Like, let's
But
bottle it. Let's sell it.
exactly, but that's the irony of all the what you what you were talking about with regards to, the healing path and the spiritual path and all this, and a lot of all that has been a mislead, for not just for you, but for many people, myself included, at times, to attain that. And yet we don't
Yes.
have to pay anybody for it.
No, we don't. No, we
No.
don't. That's what I loved so much. The gift of the sea that taught me, and it's teaching me. I still go. Well, after this talk, I'm going to go down today. It's a lovely day, and it's going to be beautiful. It just what it's actually taught me as well is just to be okay being fallible.
Mhm.
Being it's okay feeling shaky. It's okay feeling weak, and it's okay feeling, you know otherwise, every time. I would find that, or even now, I find if anxiety or if dis-ease, you call it dis-ease, that just the taking away of your ease.
Right.
When that happens, there's conflict, right? There's
Right.
conflict in
Yeah.
the body. The body has a sensation which floods you either through a trigger or whatever, and there's this undesirable thing which the mind is furiously labeling like a journalist. It's going,
Mhm.
"Hey, look, the sensation in my body right now is really undesirable. This is not a good thing. Don't stay here. Move away from this. Go and get XYZ, which will heal this and make it go away." That's when I'm realizing, well, there's the crux of the matter. It's don't make it go away. I mean, I'm not saying you mustn't make it go away, but to be able to encounter it, like really, really encounter it, is something that people. Well, I'll just talk about myself. For years and years, I would avoid. It would be avoidance. It would be the subtle thing that I would notice in conflict zones: us versus them.
Mm.
Us being me, the poor little traumatized thing,
Mhm.
versus the thing that traumatized me and the healing that could give me the relief. And that little triangle just causes a lot of, like, going round and round and round just from one corner to the next. It's like a lot of your talks about sexuality and about coming into these powerful forces that lead us. Like when I grew up in South Africa, there was, I called it the devil's triangle. There was religion on the top. There was puberty when, a lot of, like, when I was entering puberty. And so you got the religious concepts, you've got puberty, and then, you've got guilt and shame,
Mhm.
which
Yep.
is which is an inevitable outcome. And these three corners will fight. The puberties, like, your desires and your wants as you're reaching puberty are being fought by what you've been taught by, a lot of the religious beliefs. And the outcome is guilt and shame, which
Oh,
you carry
yeah.
in your body.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and that story is supported so that it goes round and round and round, where it creates more conflict, where you're like, "Oh, I got it wrong. Look at this. I feel terrible. If only I was better XYZ, then, you know, then I would appease, whatever it
Mhm.
is." It
Mhm.
just it From that place of stillness, all of that just seems, it's a moot point, and it just goes away.
It
It's like it's
dissolves.
not that important. It
Yeah. It
dissolves.
dissolves.
Yes,
And
yes.
you going to where you were with regards to, disease, the word itself is dis, and then ease, and so in between is it really just is a disconnect from self. And so then
Yes.
if we're disconnected, we can't really be in touch with what is truly going on, in our body, and then it creates this inner turmoil, and that's, disease. I mean, it's because we're not at ease. And
Collie, I haven't spoken to you for a while. Tell me what you've discovered. I'm so curious because you reaching you. I can hear by the way we're talking. You've encountered this point many, many times. So
Mhm.
where are you on this right now? I'd love to know.
Well, it's interesting with regards to also what you just mentioned about, religion and the triangle, because I work with women doing, Yoni Constellations, and I can just speak from experience. More times than not, I've experienced women who cannot open, because the yoni is the opening to creativity. I mean, we are very powerful. We can give birth to children. And a lot of women don't understand how powerful they are. And I'm not talking about burn the bra and,
Mm,
refuse men
mm.
in your life, all that. That's got nothing to do with this. I'm talking about opening up your creativity. But the problem is like I had a session with a lady a couple of days ago, and it was, you know, she had she was frozen in regards to continuance with her husband after childbirth because she this guilt and shame was coming up, but it was coming up from the church because she was no longer going to be having children. So how dare I just do this for pleasure? And it's interesting
mm,
because I said to
mm,
her, it's not the church that's creating this. It's the words that were used, our Father who art in heaven.
mm,
Now, what girl wants to be our fathering in bed,
mm,
right? So if we're,
mm,
we go to church, we take communion, we drink you know, in my work, when a person is consuming a lot of alcohol, it's usually because they had a very challenging relationship with their father. So it's about drinking the father in. And so if a
mm.
woman is not able to open up and feeling like she's feeling guilt and shame because now we're not having children, it's just for my pleasure, how can I be just seeking pleasure when, my father's watching me and there's guilt and shame and, and I have a father figure in my bed because he is a father. So, all this stuff comes into play without even knowing it,
Yes,
right? It's a very
yes.
deep-seated subconscious programming, epigenetically as well as, in the DNA, right? So yeah, the pyramid of which, or the triangle of which you speak about it's so true. And this whole thing about the disconnect from ourselves is exactly what creates the dis-ease because it's a disconnect. And I
Mm,
if you're connected like you are now, connecting with your body through doing the cold water discovery, and experiencing that somatic healing, you're connected. And so it, it almost is like that is the continuation for the excellence of which, you have experienced at certain times in your work. But now that that excellence and that connection is actually in you somatically. And so it can never leave once you've experienced it.
wow. Well, it's lovely. It's lovely just to hear that from your point of view. It's just so nice to see that your discoveries, and all of your work has led you to such similar discoveries and such similar paths to what I've discovered in a very different way.
Absolutely.
It all leads back to that that one point where
Yeah. It,
um,
it absolutely. It's like I say, we met, and worked on the zone 20 years ago, and how we've both been apart but not because we both are doing different things, but yet they're similar things because they're bringing us to this,
yeah,
right?
that's right, and you know I I I'm also just beginning to realize, like, how intimately we connected. All of the not just me and you, but just everybody is just so
Mhm.
connected at so many different levels. Like,
Absolutely.
and another gift that I was kinda given during the times that I wasn't working and it was raining, and I would go to the forest as well, and I got interested in collecting mushrooms, like wild mushrooms, and I started getting interested in mycelium networks and how these incredible beings like mushrooms and the mycelium network, how it all connects and how it connects trees and how it connects all of these living organisms. It's just this massive,
Wow.
like a neural
Yeah.
network. And
Oh, for sure.
I'm beginning to we all connected like that. And
Absolutely.
I know these are words that are bandied around a lot in spirituality, but it unless you really encounter that, they're just words, they're just stories. But just knowing that intimate connection from a level beyond kind of an idea or a story is just so profound.
Isn't it? And isn't it incredible that, you know, when you immerse yourself and not avoid, but just really go with the immersion and you come through it to the other side of it, whatever it is, it's just like amazing. I go, wow. I just go, wow, how did that happen? You can't make this shit up, man.
No, you can't.
You can't. You can't, you
No,
know?
you can't.
You can't. It's impossible. And so, our time is coming up here for a close, but it's not going to end because the thing is, I'm going to have you back again because there's so much more I want to talk to you about. But before you go, I want to say, I know you are now really passionate about sharing, your cold water discovery with others. And, for the audience, for any person listening who feels entirely consumed, by their own inner conflict, Peter, where could they begin? I mean, where could they just get a snippet of beginning?
Yeah. As working with clients and all of that, I haven't worked with that many clients. I've lived,
Mhm.
or I haven't actually. It's something I feel that life may be pulling me into now. I haven't. I'm a bit of a luddite. I've got an old website, and I haven't got a big online presence or anything like that. But I, yeah, I would love to start a discussion with people, and start to open this discussion, because it's so essential. It's so
Mm.
relevant, because all of us, what I can see is my sensitivities of working, especially shooting different shows. Like, I shot a lot of reality TV where people turn their noses up and go, "Oh, reality TV, it's terrible." But reality TV is really interesting because they throw a bunch of people together in a very contained, strange environment for a period of
Mhm.
time. And
Mhm.
after a while, you start to see all of the little foibles pop up, whether people are putting up a mask or they trying to present themselves in a certain way.
Right?
Um, Everything they've tried to suppress will eventually come up. And I all I could say to you know, people that are suffering, or out there, especially especially with the persona, the mask that people put on, as which you have to present in business terms, and to whenever you go out into the workplace, you have to present yourself in a certain way, and there's nothing
Right?
wrong with that at all. But if you're presenting yourself in a certain way, and you're feeling inadequate, or you're feeling insecure at that time, there's conflict within
Right.
you all the
Right.
time. And there just seems to me, what I've discovered is there's just layers and layers of kindness, self-kindness, that have just been undiscovered within you, where you just are able to, when you first start encountering the things that you are running away from,
Mhm.
you suddenly realize that they were there to protect you all along. They were there to help you all along. And they were there to try and bring you back to that point that we discussed earlier, of like kind of equilibrium, where everything's okay.
Mhm.
And not many people feel okay right now,
No.
especially in this term. It's a very tumultuous time we're going through right now in the world. To find that point of stillness gets increasingly difficult. So, yeah, I mean, I can't offer any straight advice to anybody by way of kind of a counseling route, but just for myself personally, to be able to encounter that point of equilibrium is just, it's somewhere outside of the story. It's somewhere outside of the fear and the anxiety that most of us are carrying around, whether we
Mhm.
like it or not. It's in our system.
Exactly. It is. It is.
Yeah, and there's all these methods and everything to do it, but to to really apply it seems to be just to be more and more forgiving and kind to yourself.
Mhm.
That's my only advice. If there's any advice, just be kind to yourself. Just be able to even be in a position where you are able to just slowly allow the very thing that you hate the most, or try and push away the most, to just slowly start understanding it, and slowly start letting it get a little bit closer to your system, so that it can be released, because it does. It'll eventually go through your system and it'll be released like
Mhm.
vapor. It'll dissolve.
Right.
Not like gone, because it'll come back in various forms, I found. But each time it comes back, it's like, "Oh, there you are again. Ah, okay, right. Wow, you've put on a really scary mask this time. That's really scary." But it's not as scary as the time before. Do you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
each time,
Yeah.
slowly you chip a little bit off the trauma, and eventually one day you realize it's your friend.
Mhm. Mhm. I know, isn't it? Yeah. You hit it, you hit it. So, Peter, because of all you've been through and what you know, are still going through and will go through, and yet your calm, experience of that stillness, I can sense it in your voice, and just, embrace it. And I know others in, the audience will as well. And I'm thinking, like you mentioned about, you know, people reaching out. Well, how can they get in touch with you to just to chat?
Well, I was thinking, what we chatting about. If you look at if you go to the links that I've given you, that they
Right.
could even go to my website,
And I'll be
get my
posting it.
email
Yeah.
address.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't mind. They can. I'm thinking of say. I always love the number 8. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's coming back to me as well. I'm thinking like, let's just say the first 8 people that email me,
Okay.
let's have a conversation. Like, let's set up a conversation with them. They can give me a call, or we could do a Zoom. I hate looking at my own face on Zoom, but that's fine. I'm learning that. Like, let's have a conversation, even if it's just 40 minutes, just chatting. And I honestly would just be prepared if the first 8 people that contact me by email, we can set up a call and we can
Oh,
just chat
wonderful.
about anything for
Right.
for 40 minutes. That's for free. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah. For
not
sure.
gonna
Hmm.
charge, and just start the conversation.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I'm definitely going to, put links up for that
Okay.
possibility, and I know that our audience will reach out because, well, I mean, it's just embracing someone who's been through, all you've been through, done all you've done. And but the thing I often tell people is it's the be, do, have, right? It's not the do and then the have. It's you've, you be it now, you be it and you have, and you know, then you do. Like it's just
Yeah.
reversed in our society because you've been it, you've experienced it, and embodied it, and you know it. And so people that know you know it by connecting with your calmness, they will reach out, and so they might want to, because like even just having you with me here now for the last little while, it's just been a gift. You are a gift. You are so loved, and I so miss being with you and going for the odd time we went for tea or coffee or a walk or whatever. And hopefully in the yeah, I was going to say the new year. We are in the new year. In this year, 2026, I'll get back to Vancouver and we'll be able to do that again. But for now, I just want our audience to know that you are available to do that. Reach out, 8 people, and then there will be more of this coming to Collitalks Transformative Conversation soon, because there's so much
Oh,
more I wanted to talk to you about, and we just don't have the time today.
oh,
But
thank
we
you.
will. Yeah, no, it's great, Peter.
Thank you,
I
Colli.
just,
Thank you, and to
oh,
your audience, disclaimer: I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not trained in therapy or anything. So it would really just be a discussion,
yeah,
just a total open discussion,
exactly.
and even just person to person. So no, I'm not offering any healing or anything like that.
No, no, just to talk.
I just feel like life is just wanting to open it up to a bigger audience than just my own discoveries. So I really appreciate that, Collie, and giving me an opportunity to talk to you and just to embrace your audience. I'm so grateful.
Oh, hey, it's the feeling is beyond mutual. So, I'm super grateful and super blessed, and I just love you dearly, and give my love to, to your beautiful wife, Kate.
I will do. Thank you so
Okay,
much, Colli. I
okay, we
appreciate
will
that, eh?
thank you so much, Peter. We will talk
Th
soon. Okay, darling.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Colli. Yeah, you keep
Bye.
well. Love you. Bye-bye.
I love you. Bye-bye.